Hello, Facebook, and welcome to Adult Sex Ed Online. So, tonight's topic is inclusive safer sex and the pleasure principle. My name is Orisha Bowers, and I am the Director of Education at Sister Reach, and I will be conducting your first online episode of Adult Sex Ed. So, we're going to jump straight into our topic for tonight. And I'll start right with a little bit of historical information on the pleasure principle itself. So, what does it mean for an individual to think about the idea of pleasure? That pleasure principle is really a psychoanalytic term that was coined by the great Sigmund Freud, defined as a tendency to seek pleasure and avoid pain. So, the pleasure principle basically rules the part of our personality called the id. That is the disorganized part of our personality, but it is by the reality principle. The id acts as a psychic force that motivates the tendency to seek immediate gratification. So if you think about a small child, one of the first things that babies do is cry, and the second thing that they learn is that adults respond when they cry. Simply put, the id controls our libido. So, Freud argued in his psychology that individuals would go to any lengths to avoid pain. So, the desire for pleasure starts with us at a very early age, very early stage in our development, and it functions as a major part of our human personality. So, it's different for different people. But we learn as we grow that we must delay gratification. But by our nature, we are designed to seek pleasure. So, sex is no different than any other part of us as human beings. We are designed to desire pleasure in all of our activities. That principle is innate. And so this idea, this communal idea that sex is about having babies and sex is limited to all of these different things is just not cognitively accurate. And so we want to debunk that a little bit. And yes, you should be having sex and you should be having pleasurable sex. It's natural for us to seek pleasure and satisfaction all throughout our life cycle. So even as we continue to age and grow, the desire for pleasurable sex is still very much alive and well within us for as long as we are alive and well. So all I'm going to say about that is if you're 50 and over, you still should be getting it on and getting it on good. All right, moving forward, sexual pleasure. The bodies of every species is designed with a built-in capacity to attract a sexual partner. So at the end of the day, it's in our DNA to get out there and mix and mingle and have a good time. What sets us apart as human beings, though, is our capacity to discover how to give and receive pleasure through sex. So, what that means is that, yes, we desire to receive pleasure, but we also have an innate desire to give pleasure. So, let's just understand for tonight that it is important for us to be satisfying our partner as well as seeking satisfaction ourselves. So, if you have a partner and you are not handling that, you need to get on your job. You should be pleasing and you should be being pleased. Let's also understand and learn that we experience sexual pleasure in different ways. So there is not a one-size-fit-all way to experiencing pleasure. It's important for us to understand that we need to be creative in terms of how we get it on and how we get it laid on us. All right? There's no one way to achieve pleasure. And so for tonight, we're going to talk about how to achieve satisfaction in a safer way. So condoms, for example, we hear are designed for us to make sure that we are safely having sex and preventing unintended pregnancies, preventing the spread of STIs. However, for tonight, we're going to think about condoms in the sense of enhancing pleasure as well as doing those other two functions. So, our goal for tonight is to continue to emphasize that we need to reduce the risk of unintended pregnancies and we need to reduce sexually transmitted infections, but we also need to open up a discussion and dialogue about positive, pleasurable benefits of using condoms, right? So, this is important because what is the most common reason why people say that they don't use condoms? It's because of pleasure or a lack of pleasure. So I'm here tonight to sort of debunk that a little bit and give us some tools that we can use so that we can get our freak on in a safe and sexually pleasurable way. So let's start right there. How might condoms affect sexual pleasure? And please, if you have questions or comments, please put it in a post on the comments. But one thing, obviously, is the fit. If a condom is extremely tight or extremely loose, obviously that's going to interrupt the flow of your sexual encounter, and you're going to have to make different adjustments in order to remedy, tightness. So fit is one of the most important ways in which a condom might affect sexual pleasure. The second piece is texture. So what is the condom made of? How is it designed? What does it feel like? That's going to impact both parties or all parties depending upon how you get it on. But you want to think about that. And so I often will say to folks, do you buy your shoes in the same place that you buy your groceries? Now, for some of us, the answer to that is yes. But we're going to assume that most of us don't purchase our shoes in the same place that we buy our lettuce and tomatoes. Condoms are no different. You've got to shop around. There are a lot of options out there, and we're going to cover tonight what some of those options are. And it's going to play right into what we're talking about, considering pleasure and texture and fit. I encourage us also to think about all of our senses when we are choosing the condom that is right for us and for our partner. So you should think about what you see, what you feel, what you taste, smell, and hear. And remember, one size does not fit all. So let's jump right into that. I've created tonight a little visual that's going to help us walk through this particular part of our discussion. So here's some things to remember. And this is my little visual aid, and I'm going to take the time to go through these. But like, for example, color. That's something that you can see, right? There are condom brands out there that are designed with lots of different vibrant colors, lots of different textures, lots of different feels, smells, all of that. So here we have our trusty Trustex brand, which comes in assorted colors and sizes. Extra large for those of us who need extra large, but then they also come in our standard traditional sizes, as well as the One brand. This is the One brand condom here. These also come in many different sizes, shapes, and colors. We have extra large condoms, extra thin condoms. You've got your standard latex lifestyle condom there. You've got your latex free condom here. You've got your ribbed and studded, made by the One brand. You also have your wider extra large condom there, made by Atlas. And then let's also talk about flavored condoms. Here you've got a flavored condom made by the Fantasy brand. These are just some examples for us to consider when we're talking about variety. Also down towards the bottom here, you'll see different kinds of lubricant that you can add to your arsenal as you are getting your pleasure on. So this one has fallen down here for you so you can see the back of it. This is the dolphin shaped condom. Again, shape, size, color, feel, texture, all things that are important. But when you're thinking about lubricant, you also want to think about, again, all your senses. You've got some warming lubricant over here. You've got flavored lubricant right here, this banana flavored, as well as here your standard water-based lubricant. There's also different brands for your lube as well, and you should be using lube with any of these condoms. Even if your condom comes lubricated, you wipe off some of that lubricant when you are putting your condom on. And we will also go over the steps in which one should use to properly put a condom on. But I want to pause for a second just to see if there's any questions about any of those varieties that we've talked about. Okay, moving on. Moving on to our next point. What should you consider when you are thinking about which type of condom is best for you? Well, you want to think about particularly what type of act that you will be participating in. So, when I think about activities, I think about possibilities for transmission. All right. So, what is actually going to be happening during the act? Are we going to engage in things that place us in a situation where there's skin to skin contact? Will there be a transfer of any bodily fluids? Will there be contact with any area that could be infected somehow? Like, you want to think about these different things as you are deciding what type of barrier you want to use, as well as what type of pleasure you are seeking to give or receive. So I would say, you want to have a conversation with your partner well in advance of getting together to have sex, right? You want to make sure that you talk to them about what it is that they like to do, what it is that you like to do, how you're going to go about doing it, and making sure that you have a good understanding of what each party is expecting before you get into the act. The other thing is there any fluid going to be possibly exchanged, or would you be exposed to any type of fluid? Like, what type of barrier can protect you from coming into contact with bodily fluids? So again, you need to understand exactly what it is that you're going to be doing and what you're expected to do. And in case you are unaware of the types of bodily fluids, that could be pre-ejaculate, that could be seminal fluid, vaginal or anal secretions, breast milk, or blood. You want to make sure that you are well aware of what the possibilities are. And again, that's all about having good communication and conversation in advance so that you have a good plan of action for how you can protect yourself from these different bodily fluids. Also, you want to have some knowledge and some education about your partner's history, sexual history, health history, and their status in terms of any type of STIs, HIV/AIDS, anything like that. Do they have a history of any type of illnesses that are communicable? So in order for you to know that, there again, communication, having a conversation up front, being honest, and if you don't know, making sure that you make an appointment or contact us at Sister Reach so that we can either get you tested, free confidential HIV testing right here in our office. Give us a call. We do appointments. Give us a call. We'll get you fixed up. If you would like to get that free HIV testing, we can make a referral for you to a community partner if you need to get STI testing. However, you definitely want to make sure that you know your own status as well as your partner's status. And so you want to get that information on the front end. So again, you can be knowledgeable and make a plan for how you go forward with your activities. At the end of the day, everybody has a status. Make sure that you know yours and make sure that you know your partner's status. The need for safer sex applies to all people, regardless of your sexual orientation or your sexual identity. Oftentimes, when we have conversations about safer sex or about the need for a barrier method for any type of prevention, we get into these conversations about people's identity and about people's orientation. At the end of the day, all people who are sexually active need to know how to protect themselves, and they need to know what it takes to have pleasurable encounters. So for us tonight, we're going to be inclusive in our conversation and make sure that we talk about things in a way that includes all people, regardless of how they identify. So I just wanted to put that out there as a general disclaimer, and hopefully as we continue to go forward in the future, we'll be able to change that narrative in our community and amongst ourselves about how we talk about sex. I also want to go back to talking a little bit more about how to properly use a condom. So the first thing that you want to do, regardless of whether or not it is, what type of condom it is, the first thing that you want to do is, pass me the model. The first thing that you want to do is look at the expiration date of your actual item, and you can find that on the back of the labeling. Make sure that the expiration date is in the future, far in the future, and if it is not, you should dispose of that condom immediately. The other thing is, make sure you keep it in a cool and dry place so that it is not dried out. The other thing you want to do is you want to move that condom to the side and gently open it so you avoid tearing it. I tell people, hold it up and sit it on your hand like a sombrero. It's like a little hat that sits on top of your head or on top of your hand. Pinch the tip, and here's my model for tonight. And you want to slide that condom down, holding that tip all the way down to the base, leaving room for any fluids to be released. And then you just have sex. Okay? Pleasurable sex. Make sure you make it good. All right. At the end, you want to continue to hold that condom so that you don't spill any of the contents. Slide it off of the penis. Then I like to tell folks, take it, tie it, and place it in a little shopping bag. The reason for that is because condoms oftentimes are not biodegradable, so you don't want to put this into your toilet or septic system because it will back up your plumbing, and that's a whole nother problem that we don't want to address. Simply dispose of it in the trash can. And so you want to make sure that you are using the proper steps for putting on a condom or a barrier, depending upon what type of barrier you choose. All right. So my last point for tonight is really thinking about your psyche. When we think about what's in our minds, our views about safer and pleasurable sex, that is really what controls the way that we go about doing our behaviors, right? So what we think about sex, how we view sex, how we view pleasure, who should get pleasure, who should have sex, etc. All that information is what really drives what we actually go out and do. I encourage us again to have healthy thoughts about sex. Sex is a very natural part of our lives. It is something that is a part of our DNA from the time we are born to the time that we die. So thinking that there aren't any thoughts about sex until a certain point in time, or that our thoughts about sex stop after a certain point in time, is just not accurate. I want to encourage us to realize that sex is a very natural and normal part of our lives, and it is with us all throughout our entire life cycle. And so again, we have a natural innate desire to want to be satisfied and want to have pleasure. And that is a part of us from the day we're born all the way up until the day that we leave this world. I look forward to talking to you all again in the future. And I hope that we gave you some information and some news that you can use. Thank you so much for tuning in to our first installment of Sex Ed Online with Sister Reach. And please, 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 I welcome your feedback, comments, questions. We'll be watching to see if you have questions or responses. Thank you so much for your time and patience. And we look forward to giving you more information in the very near future. Thank you so much, and you all have a great night.